So yes, my research interest is motivational psychology. And today, by talking about exploratory practice, I'd like to perhaps give the idea that teachers, no matter how busy they may be, can do research with their own students. So I'm sure that as teachers or learners, you've all been in a situation similar to this. Now, research suggests that motivation is really difficult to research, to investigate, to observe, to understand. And that is because motivation actually can be shaped by so many different factors. In this publication, for example, Judith Hanks shows the case of this student, Ahmad, who says, I'm really motivated to study English, but for some reasons, I can't seem to function in certain contexts. Now, that's why I came up with the idea of life capital. Life capital is this sort of notion that we all have our own life stories, and our life stories inside the classroom, outside the classroom, have an impact on anything we do, including our learning and our motivation. Now, how do we research motivation in relation to life capital? One approach which I've explored is exploratory practice. Now, exploratory practice is a form of practitioner research like action research or reflective practice. Action research and reflective practice usually encourage teachers to begin their investigations with a problem or a need for some kind of change in their learning or teaching practices. On the other hand, exploratory practice brings us to think about the quality of life in our classrooms or online learning and teaching communities. Quality of life really is what is going on in our classrooms or our teaching and learning. And to do so, we therefore focus on understanding rather than problem solving or action for change. In order to be able to focus on quality of life of a teaching or learning, exploratory practice encourages people to think of puzzles. Puzzles are questions that start with the word why. So you could say, why is my student motivated? Why is my student so active in this lesson? And so on and so forth. Importantly, exploratory practice, unlike perhaps action research and reflective practice, welcomes investigations that look at positives as well as negative, perhaps, dimensions of learning and teaching practices. Exploratory practice brings everybody together, puts teachers and learners on an equal standing with similar agency. And therefore, it's an activity, it's an enterprise that brings people together for the development of mutual understandings, whatever interests teachers or learners. But importantly, exploratory practice is meant to support teachers and learners who are already quite busy with heavy workloads. And therefore, the point is that we don't necessarily have to create new materials or big strategies to collect our data and do our research like sometimes is the case with action research or reflective practice or other forms of practitioner research. Exploratory practice, interestingly, encourages teachers and learners to use the very same pedagogical activities that you would use as part of your teaching and learning as investigative tools. So we call these PEPAs, potentially exploitable pedagogic activities. It means that you establish what your puzzle for research is, and then you pick an activity that you would use with your students in any case, and kind of tweak perhaps the format or the instructions or the structure so that you can investigate what you're interested in. And now I'll show you how I investigated motivation through exploratory practice with a group of pre-sessional students in a UK summer pre-sessional. A pre-sessional, just as a quick reference, is a course that international students have to take in the UK before they can progress onto university degrees. And it's something that I know it's becoming quite popular in Ireland as well. So I was the teacher for the reading and writing side of things on this pre-sessional. Now, at the start of every pre-sessional that I teach, I like to ask my students, tell me about yourselves. You know, I like to get to know them as much as possible to understand really what the weaknesses or interests might be. So in this case, my PEPA, as I said, this potentially exploitable pedagogic activity was turning these generic instructions when I asked the students to tell me about themselves into a specific task which would encourage them to say something about their motivation. So here's one of the questions that I put in this paper. What are your reasons for choosing to study at this university? Describe your personal motivation for coming here and what you hope to achieve. Why are you doing this pre-sessional? What are your expectations of the pre-sessional? What are your expectations of this particular module? And here's a sample answer from Megan. First of all, the MSc is necessary for the future due to the fierce competition in society. So initially we can see that the student is concerned with the instrumental need to compete in her Chinese society. You know, there's a lot of competition to get a job, and therefore the master's program that she's signed up to do is an important requirement for to be able to face this competition. Secondly, I will have more opportunity to get a higher position in a company after learning the methodologies of program and project management, comparing to my past time. Last but not least, learning makes me happy. This means that studying at this university and making friends here are fabulous things in my life, and this would be a great memory in my life. In conclusion, I want to study here to get promotion and enjoy my life. I dream a lot about the life in this university, and I do hope I can learn the practical knowledge here. So when we go back to that notion of life capital, this idea that our life story and our life experiences, past, present, and future, imagined experiences or imagined ambitions, and in this case, imagined professional life, have an impact on our present behavior. And in this case, the students' motivation to be on this program is heavily influenced by all these different thoughts of being competitive, of gaining this competitive edge in a very competitive society, but also enjoying herself in this new learning adventure in a new country, in this university. So we can see already in this paper a mesh of instrumental and sort of integrative or intrinsic motivation dimensions. Now, another activity that I like to do during a pre-sessional course is a weekly writing task, which I give the students to do for the weekend. So it's really an opportunity for them to reflect on the week and tell me what they wish to share. Now, this is really to check how they're getting on with the program, not necessarily to check on their English, although it's obviously another opportunity to give them some feedback on, the writing. Now, in this case, because I was interested in finding out as much as possible about their motivation, I decided to tweak my task in such a way to encourage them to write something about their motivation. And I said, write about this past week. What did you like about your lessons? What did you dislike about your lessons? What did you like or dislike about your life outside the classroom? Share what you want and write as much as you want. So as you can see, it's sort of a chilled activity, if you like, that really encourages them to write about what they wish to share. This is an example from Xiaoxin, who said, I felt upset because I realized how poor my oral English was. That's true. I know how smart I am in Chinese, but I'm really stupid in English. I cannot adequately express myself well in English. Therefore, I can only choose very simple words and sentences to communicate, even though when I have complex emotions and deep thought. I feel that my poor oral English make me become a rather boring and dull person. Although I can understand some jokes, I cannot find a right way to respond in English. Just choose to smile or don't say anything. I really don't want to be that. Now, if we go back to the idea of life capital, as I said at the beginning, we can see so many different factors and um, dimensions of the student's life that are affecting not just her motivation, but really her well-being, both academic and overall well-being. Um, First, we realized that she has a self-perception of her English, which is in stark contrast with her understanding of her social and linguistic competence in her first language, Chinese, to the extent that she goes as far as saying that she feels stupid in English and smart in Chinese. Now, the benefit of doing this kind of research is that not only am I offering students an opportunity for additional feedback on their writing, I'm also finding out about the way they're getting on with the program, but also I'm tapping into those insights and dimensions of their life capital that clearly have a large impact on her well-being in this case. She clearly is struggling with the notion of social competence and the inability to express herself fully as she would in a first language. So you see, doing exploratory practice in this sense was very useful for me because I was able, as exploratory practice would have it, to investigate my students' motivation or tap into what I call their life capital without burdening myself, a very busy processional teacher, with extra sort of research work and the students, because they obviously had a lot already on their plate. So you see, exploratory practice is really an opportunity for teachers and learners to explore their puzzles or research interests without burdening themselves with extra research materials or um, strategies, and still finding out important information that can inform teaching and learning practices. Now, I need to come to an end.